And a very warm welcome to the Harbours Advisory Committee. We welcome all our members. I'm Councillor Mark Roberts, I chair the committee. Councillor Rob Hughes, good morning.
Good morning.
Councillor Dave Bolwell. Councillor Mary Penfold. And Councillor Sarah Williams. I don't think we've had apologies from Councillor Louis O'Leary, but I do know he's standing for election for Weymouth Town Council today, so I understand if he's not present. And our independent members, Lee Hardy, Philip Thickness, and Richard Tinsley. And a warm welcome to all our members of our officers, members of staff from the Harbours, and various services here today. And we will be welcoming, I think, Anna Eastgate online, the Corporate Director for Place, morning to Ken Buchan, Head of Environment and Wellbeing, James Radcliffe, the Bridport and Lyme Regis Harbour Master, Dave Brown, Assistant Harbour Master, and delighted to welcome our new Assistant Harbour Master, Karen Womack, who is only just, I don't think you even got the right name badge yet, have you, Karen? So very new into the role. Matt Penny, the Service Manager for the Flood and Coastal Erosion Risk Management Team. Claire Connolly, the Harbour Office Manager. And Laura Altree, our Legal Business Partner. Kevin Evans, our Senior Accountant. Kate Critchell, Democratic Services Officer. And we very warm welcome to Joshua Kennedy for his first meeting, I think, his first minute taking. So no pressure there for you, Josh, at all. So have we received apologies?
Oh, no, there are no apologies, Chairman.
And also, we're delighted to welcome here online, we've got Simon Miles, who chairs the Bridport Consultative Group, and here today, Steve Postles, who is here for the Lyme Regis Consultative Committee. So very warm welcome to Steve. Minutes of the former Harbours Committee, those are available online. There was a minor error on the minutes. Independent membership was missed off. This has been amended on the website and in the minute book. We haven't supplied a copy, but the link was in your notes. So it's really to note the minutes of the previous, and I hope everyone's had a chance to look at them. And item 3, declarations of interest. Do any members have any declarations of interest? Yes, Mary Penfold. I would like to record all my usual ones, including mooring of a boat at West Bay Harbour, if it's renewed. Yes, Philip. Sorry, Richard.
Yes, I hold a mooring at Weymouth Marina.
Thank you. So, I mean, I have a long list of bodies that I sit on, but I think they're the same as normal, and I think you have a record of those, Kate. Thank you. Next item is item 4, public participation. There are no public questions. So we move on to item 5, which is my verbal update. This is the first meeting of the Harbours Advisory Committee following the change of governance approved by full council on the 20th of October. The committee now reports to Cabinet rather than full council. This will facilitate faster decisions and approvals, particularly on larger capital items. Members, I think, will see very little change to our meetings. Our recommendations will go to Cabinet or the portfolio holder rather than full council. However, there is a change. Under the new arrangements, the portfolio holder, Councillor Ray Bryan, currently the portfolio holder, becomes the duty holder rather than the committee. And so we hope that we won't see Councillor Bryan with any little arrows and an orange suit. But it means the committee equally won't have that responsibility. The consultative committees will have their reports shortly. I've attended all but the last Weymouth one. Excellent forums for understanding any issues raised by the many and varied user groups in our 3 very different harbours. And I'd like to thank the Vice Chairman for standing in for me at the last Weymouth consultative group when I was away on holiday. The portfolio holder, Councillor Ray Bryan, and I have been involved in the interview process for recruiting the Harbour Master post at Weymouth. And I had put that we hope to be able to announce the appointment very shortly, but I understand from Claire that the formal offer has been accepted and he's given notice in his current role, so we will be welcoming Ed Carter to the post in about 8 weeks' time. So, and I know the Weymouth team have all met him, so we look forward to that. And the committee met informally to consider the proposed fees and charges for the next season, outlined in agenda item 10. And as always, I thank those who could meet and give their time for that. So that's my verbal report. We now move on to the item 6, the Harbour Consultative Group minutes, and we'll start with Bridport, the West Bay Harbour. And over to you, Steve. Thank you.
So I'm here to cover for Nick Marks, who's in hospital at the moment. So he's left me some notes in respect to the last meeting down at Lyme Regis, that one of the concerns was the staffing of the harbour and the lack of resources, phase 5, and what threat that may be under for future funding, and the possibility of changes to the storage of boats on Monmouth Beach area, and the PWCs, and the proposal from the Powerboat Club to run a trial licensing system concerning how this will be managed in practice and the likely impact on the small harbour. At that meeting, there was a representative from Weymouth Harbour, the Deputy Harbour Master, who had the same problems in Weymouth and how they dealt with it. There's still a lot of concern, waiting on to hear how the council, their decision on allowing the PWCs. Also, in respect to the sailing club, are waiting for the outcome of negotiations between Lyme Regis Harbour and the Lyme Regis Town Council with Natural England regarding the use of the accredited beach area where dinghies are presently stored. We understand that Lyme Regis Town Council are asking for more detailed proposals from Lyme Regis Harbour before continuing to submit a proposal to Natural England. We ask for this to be progressed as a matter of urgency. Also, at the last meeting, Lyme Regis Sailing Club is preparing to hold the UK Class World Championships from the 22nd to the 30th of June next year, as brought to our Lyme Regis in October to the meeting and discussed with James Radford's. Further discussions are going well, and full details will be circulated in the new year. And finally, in respect from the fishermen, their concerns about the works that will be taking place in Lyme Regis, where basically the cob area will be closed for a period of time, and how that will affect their commercial business and the transport of their fish to the markets, and also being able to get to their vessels. And they're waiting to hear further details on how that will affect, because this could run on for at least 6 months. Also, there's been a new committee set up called the Lyme Bay Fishermen's CIC, which covers the 4 ports that use Lyme Bay: Beer, Seaton, Lyme Regis, and West Bay. This has been funded by the MMO, and this is to do with protecting the area in respect to fishing and other concerns. The DEFRA are looking at setting up more of these CICs around England. So, and there is funding available through this. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Steve. My deliberate error, that of course was the Lyme Regis report, and apologies, Simon Miles. We will come to that. Any questions for Steve about the Lyme Regis report? The issues over the phase 5, the COB, will be covered partly by Matt Penny in his report, but I also know that Dorset Coast Forum are involved with liaising and making sure that everybody's views are properly heard and taken into account. So as it progresses, I think we'll see a little more of that. Thank you. No questions for Steve, for Lyme Regis? Well, we'll move now to Simon Miles for the Bridport and West Bay report. Please, Simon.
Good morning all. Thanks, Mr. Chairman, for the introduction opportunity here. Brief report from West Bay and the consultative group there. Hopefully everyone's had an opportunity to read through the notes in advance. Points of interest worth mentioning were the fundamentals of the consultative group are still being formulated and put into action to help the representatives fulfil the roles efficiently. This is taking a little longer than we would like it to. The list of, for example, the list of harbour traders isn't available to the harbour representative, to that representative due to GDPR restrictions. So it's looking like it's a lengthy procedure of door knocking and introductions and so on, which is taking a bit longer than would be ideal. And similar situation with the leisure mooring representative. As yet, he hasn't received any input or feedback from any mooring user. So we're looking at ways of perhaps getting his details circulated and get the mooring holders aware that he is there, to assist them with any issues, gripes they may have. I think that's being addressed for season 23, and hopefully a bit more satisfactory. So it's just minor sort of running gripes. Harbour Master James Radcliffe gave his report and drew attention to the water safety scheme, which is currently in operation in Lyme Regis, with plans to develop this and run it in West Bay Harbour. This is potentially a powerful scheme which places QR codes at visible and significant positions around the harbour, which users can scan and takes direct links to safety information, which we think would be an excellent addition to West Bay Harbour. There was also a brief discussion around the potential development of what's known as the Old Water Polo Basin, which is just to the east side of the Harbour office in West Bay, with potential plans to develop this into a more usable area. At the moment, it's kind of dormant. It's sitting there. It was used to absorb wave energy when the both parallel piers formed the harbour entrance, but with the outer harbour, this area is sort of just sitting dormant at the minute, so it's a good space to be developed. Reports from the representatives were, I would say, 99% positive, with a good handful of suggestions and requests identified through the spring and summer season. In brief, better signage, a facility for to gather feedback from visiting vessels, bits and pieces that weren't working, such as the fishermen's lifting cranes, and the worsening seagull issue and ongoing around West Bay Harbour, as I'm sure it is everywhere else along any coastal towns. So better signage and education of the public, bins and recycle facility area would be appreciated, and perhaps we can look into those. Otherwise, it was fairly minor reports from of issues from the representatives. Also noted and discussed and worth mentioning was the appearance of an unidentified submerged object off of East Beach, which was marked with a buoy, and the beach area was flagged by the lifeguards. But it was evident in this situation that there was a slight confusion over the chain of command as to who was responsible for dealing with this, and people weren't sure who to turn to ask for advice and help and policing, marshalling of this. But hopefully that's been resolved at the consultative meeting group. So that is to be looked into early part of next season. Obviously, with the winter weather and winter sea and water visibility, it's difficult to get in and establish what and if. But hopefully we can move on with that. And lastly, the consultative group was introduced to Emma Bourne, who was offered to take on as yet the unappointed role of non-motorised water users. This would cover swimmers, SUP, kayak, sail, kite surf, anyone in the water without any kind of motor propulsion. And this is an increasing group of water users who, as yet at West Bay, are unrepresented. The creation and addition of appointment would need to be confirmed by this committee. West Bay Consultative Group would support the inclusion of this role, and would support Emma to take the appointment if there were no objections. And then just lastly, a sentence surmise was that it was a positive post-season meeting in West Bay, with no major gripes from the users towards the staff or the staff towards the users. We were very lucky. It was a good season. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that comprehensive report, Simon. And are there any questions for Simon? If not, Ken, could I just ask you, can we make an approval to expand the membership of the Bridport and West Bay Consultative Committee here at this meeting now, if members are in agreement? I was at that meeting, and it's certainly, the membership of the swimming group is around 200. So it really would be very good to have a voice for the non-motorised users on the consultative committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. What I would like to suggest is that there are some other issues around about the terms of reference that need to be updated. And I've been having conversations with legal colleagues about that. What I would suggest is that we do that piece of work and bring that back to the next committee. And that will also outline the memberships and the coverage of those memberships for each of the harbours. But then we'll also tackle issues around about the term of tenure on the committee, where substitutes sit on the committee and how long their tenure can be, and so on. There's a few, we're starting to see a few little gaps in the terms of reference, and in some areas they don't seem to be fit for purpose. So I would like to suggest that we bring that back to the next committee. But in the meantime, you know, the representative for non-motorised activities would be, I'm sure, more than welcome to attend the meetings until that is approved.
Thanks. The meetings are every 6 months for, if we bring it forward to our March meeting, it should be in time for the next meeting of Weymouth and West Bay. Are you happy with that, Simon?
Yeah, more than happy.
Just to say that we actually have them on the committee at Lyme Regis, and we think it's very useful to have them on the committee.
Yes, thank you, Steve. It was noted at, and I mentioned that at the Bridport meeting that Lyme have this position, but I also know there's one or two, and I don't think we've got anyone from Weymouth unless there's someone online to present theirs. But reading through the notes, there is some discussion over the succession of chair and vice chair there, which Ken referred to. So I think if we can add it to our work plan and bring that to the March meeting, we can resolve it then. Thank you. You've all got the Weymouth notes. I wasn't there at that meeting, but Vice Chairman Rob Hughes was there and Ken Buchan was there. The notes are there for you all to look at, and I hope you've had a chance to go through them. I don't know if Rob or Ken, you want to mention anything in particular about the Weymouth Consultative Group.
No, Chair, it was a good meeting. It was everything was fine in your absence and no major issues to report.
Thank you. Yes, it's a very comprehensive set of notes again from the Consultative Committee. We now move on to item 7, the Harbour Master updates, and we'll start with the Bridport and Lyme Regis Harbours, and over to James Radcliffe, Harbour Master.
Thank you, Chair. So starting with the statistics at Bridport, as of the end of October, the season tickets and day launches are comparable to previous years. The quayside parking is slightly down, and we're looking at options for this next coming year to see where we can increase on that. The shop and boat repairs are slightly reduced to last year, and a lot of this is down to waiting for parts for the boat repairs. There's quite a backlog on parts from our suppliers. The diving compressor, as you can see, has increased massively, and this is a lot down to commercial use. There's now 2 vessels running out of Lyme Regis doing commercial diving, and they're both using the air from West Bay. The mooring occupancy currently for private at West Bay is 97% and 100% for commercial. The stats for Lyme Regis. The season tickets day launches have increased from previous years, as have the visiting boat nights. The pontoons and the visitors' buoys were seen full on many occasions. The quayside parking has increased and has been a good asset for the harbour. Many harbour users have commented on how easy it is to be able to use their boats this year. The shop has also had a good start to the year and is matched what it took last year already. Mooring occupancy for Lyme is on 94% on private leisure and 100% still on commercial. Moving on to staff. So the Harbour Master's post has now been made permanent to cover Bridport and Lyme Regis Harbours. And with that, we've appointed a new Assistant Harbour Master at Lyme Regis and look forward to Phil Wright starting in January. We've also had a full-time Harbour Assistant position filled at Lyme, and Sam Harding has already joined the team and started this week. Staff have been off and done MCA 4P oil pollution courses, and we are booking in other staff for the 2P oil pollution course in the new year. Staff are also joining on first aid courses in the new year. Both Harbour Consultative Groups have met, and we've heard from the minutes. They were both well attended from all the representatives. The Harbour Revision Order for Bridport and Lyme it has been held up on a national level by the MCA, but this has now been resolved and we're waiting for it to go to public consultation. This was due in November, but it's more likely now going to be in the new year. So on Harbour Works, the pontoons have both been moved, both harbours, and the planned maintenance has already started. Weather permitting, it is hoped to be completed by Christmas, but we've already been held up with painting due to the recent weather. And the dredging at the moment is scheduled to be planned for March, April of next year, in plenty of time for the new season. At Lyme Regis, the Harbour Fisherman's Store, we're still working, the estates team still working with Western Power in removal of a pole that needs moving before we can actually start work. At the moment, the scheduled date for the removal of the pole is looking likely to be March of next year, which means we can't then start until this is done. So we are still planning to be on the ground working hopefully March, if not very early April next year, with a completion with sort of 3 months after that. Future projects we're looking at for Bridport. We want to complete the piling on the East Basin. Some of this was done last year. We want to relook at it and complete that. And as Simon mentioned from the consultative group, we're looking at the area next to the office at the base of the West Pier and see where we can develop that for better use. So the Port Marine Safety Code, the contract with Marico Marine, who supply the designated person services to the harbour, is now finished at the end of September. And we now have a new 3-year contract with ABP Mer to provide this service. And James Hannon, who's Associate Maritime Consultant at ABP, is going to be the new designated person. Now we look forward to working with him in the new year. There's no failures to report since on the Aegis navigation, but maintenance of the land-based poles has taken place at the end of this season, and we look to get the out-to-sea ones repainted early part of next year. All of our events were very well attended. There's a full list on the report. The next events that are happening is the Boxing Day swim at West Bay. This hasn't happened since 2018, so it would be good to see that one come back. And the Lyme Regis has got the Lyme Splash, the Lyme Lunge on New Year's Day. We've got a full calendar of events booking up for next year, and we're looking forward to, and already started working with meeting with the Sailing Club on the OK Worlds for the end of June, as Steve mentioned in the consultative report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, James. I was at a meeting yesterday, the Local Government Association Coastal Special Interest Group, and we had a fairly senior member of the MMO licensing team there, and I raised the issue of the slowness of approval for both HROs and dredging. And he did say that they are, I didn't mention specifically where, but I did say that it can hold up if dredging is delayed and moves into the tourist season. And he did say that if I made direct contact, there is a fast track for specific ones. So we may be able to, if there are any hold-ups, we can perhaps, I can use that link to try and progress that. Councillor Ray Bryan.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Having listened to the report, can we do everything we can to try and get the dredging done before the holiday season starts? It's always a bit of a bone of contention. Everybody knows it's got to be done, but if we can we try and get it so it causes as little inconvenience to the local businesses as possible? Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you for that, Councillor Bryan. Matt, did you want to come in on that one?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to say that we're on target for a March and April dredge. We're on programme for that. So at this moment in time, that's the intention. And I don't see at this moment in time that we'll be put off that programme unless the MMO licence doesn't come in. But then the council will have to make hard decisions about whether we go ahead anyway. That's something that there is a risk there that's out of our control regards to the West Bay dredge.
Thank you. Maybe I'll liaise with you and get some details, and I can make contact with the senior licensing. He was head of licensing, so we may be able to just get a little nudge in there, possibly. Any other questions for James on the Harbour Masters report? Yes, Councillor Mary Penfold.
Wonderful job, and it's really important for us as a council. Thank you.
Yes, I think we all echo that. Thank you. Did you want to have a word, Steve?
The dredging at Lyme Regis, does that only go ahead if it goes ahead in West Bay as well? And the end of March, beginning of April is Easter.
Yeah, the same contractor is used, so it will happen. We will engage the contractor to do, I suspect, like last time, West Bay and moves on to Lyme Regis is the normal procedure, unless Matt is going to tell me differently.
I am, Chair, yes. The plan this year is to go to Lyme first and then to West Bay. We see the biggest risk. We've taken a risk-based approach. The biggest risk to the respective towns, we feel we're better served if we did Lyme first. So therefore, we're not butting up against Easter. Because we are weather dependent, we can never guarantee there won't be overruns. That's a simple fact of life, unfortunately. But we do our very best to avoid Easter and the tourist season.
Thank you. Does that answer? Yeah, thanks for that clarification, Matt. If there's no more questions for James, we move on to the Harbour Master updates, and we welcome the team from Weymouth. Claire, are you going to introduce, or is it over to Dave and Karen?
Thank you, Chair. It'll just be me delivering the report today. The statistics for Weymouth, we are number of berthing vessels. We are up again. We are 367 on trending. Number of commercial vessels seems to be still down, but that is mainly because vessels are now berthing with us rather than visiting. Sorry, is that better, Chair? Okay, is that better? Okay. Incoming leisure crafts are up this again on previous years. Slipway and PWC incomes also up again. Number of bridge lifts, they are on schedule. That will be slightly down with the ongoing work that we've had. Number of vessels transiting the bridge, that will also be declined due to only 3 bridge lifts over the work period. The commercial visiting vessels, that's down at the moment, but that's, again, due to them vessels now being moored in Weymouth Harbour. The annual leisure berths are up at 96%, and that seems to be the trend going forwards with the next year. Visiting vessels, it's been noticeably noted that motor vessels are slightly down, but wind sails are up, and income using the slipway on previous years are up. The visiting vessels seem to be increasing at 12 to 15 metres, 15 to 20, and plus 20 metres are all up. Operations, Town Bridge, that was closed to traffic, resulting in only 3 bridge lifts during the 7 days, 8 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and a 6 o'clock bridge. The work is now complete. Bridges up and running as normal with only 1 hour service. Very little complaints come to us due to this, and from the committee meeting, we had a appraisal for the work that was carried out. No damage to any vessels, and it also reported no dust on the vessels that was nearby. So they put a thanks into the engineering team for that. The general directions was awaiting the appointment of the new harbour master, which will be February. Open port duty. The port waste management plan has now been reviewed by the MCA and has been approved until 2025. The oil response plan, Tier 2 contract, was renewed in December with Adel and Adrian, the previous contractor before, which has given us a discount as we no longer need to do a major response plan in the harbour this year. So we have got a discounted on the gold service. Staff training, we've had 1 oil response spill P2 pollution course been completed. Also 1 oil spill P4 management pollution course completed. We've also done 2 commercial endorsements on the powerboat licence. Staffing, as you've already mentioned, Chair, we now have a harbour master being appointed. Recently, the appointed Assistant Harbour Master, Matt Brown, resigned from his post. That has now been filled with Karen Warmack. Environmental duty, the sea hives that was installed on the pleasure pier. There was 4 in total. 1 is currently on the seabed, but secured to the pier. 1 was in danger of coming off, so that has been removed and located into another spot in the harbour. And the other 2 I've been checked and seem to be all okay. The failures seem to be the chains have failed a lot quicker than the previously thought. So that is ongoing project work at the moment with the sea hives to get a long-term solution for that. The pleasure pier, we're working with Matt's team and the harbour staff are monitoring the safety elements of the handrails, which we are looking at replacing. But the further update to that's in Matt's report. Aids to navigation. The stone pier lights have failed. We have a temporary light in situ. That is being resolved as we speak today, and tomorrow the lights will be replaced and it will comply with our 9-mile requirement for the stone pier. At the same time of why Navmore have down, we've taken the opportunity to have all lights in the harbour serviced for their annual service. The weather, we've not really had too much infrastructure damage, only the sea hives due to weather. Surveys, we've just completed the surveys in the harbour on the seabed to see if any dredging needs doing or if we're still complying. The coastal erosion risk assessment team have been carrying out a number of surveys in the area on land and on the water. The marinas, we are at the process of still doing rolling maintenance and also now it's winterising the pontoons. The peninsula, we've had a number of meetings now with the project manager, Sam, on site and also in office. That is still ongoing work, hopefully with Knight Brown's being on site end of January, but next year. Pleasure Pier, that has been surveyed. The report's in Matt's report, but that is ongoing project work that will need to be looked at. Events. No, we've not got that much in Weymouth. Next event is the Christmas Day Swim, which is all in progress. That's the end of reports, Chair.
Thank you very much, Dave. Any question? I've just got one, if I may. Will the new navigation lights, will you be aware of the failure from the office, or is there an automatic system that records failure, or do you rely on people spotting it not working?
The navigation lights, they've had to upgrade it at their cost. When they originally installed the lighting system, it was meant to come through, but with the signal in Weymouth, that wasn't the case. So they've upgraded it to the GSM model. That's been carried out today, and tomorrow that will then be reported to us. We will be able to log on every day from the Harbour office and find out the serviceability for them lights.
Thank you. Richard.
Yeah, a general question really, and a specific one. So just reflecting, the designated persons report was made quite a finding on visibility of incident and accident reporting. It was quite a sort of an important point. I'm very conscious we've initiated a new online system at Weymouth, and that's now gone to Bridport Online, and that's up and active. But visibility of those things, I think, is key. I noticed reading through the consultative committee reports, there's quite a lot of what I would describe as incidents, missing boys, and I'm conscious it may be timing, they may be historical and not gone into the system, but I think my question was, how do we gather that into the incident reporting system? Is there a mechanism to capture, you know, someone at the committee says, well, there's a boy missing, or does that get captured in the incident system, or, you know, that visibility is quite important, I think. Oh.
I'm not sure, Claire, do you want, or Dave?
Our systems, it's done online, as you are aware. It's also, if people come into the office, we would do the navigation buoy would not have been recorded on Weymouth because it was in Portland's water. So that's why it was only brought up in the consultants group, and that's why it's not on the incident report, because it was Weymouth, but we have noted it on our incidents as well, that it was out.
Just to follow up, on specifically on the lights, have we done a root cause into why the lights failed? Did we look, was it maintenance, weathering, aging? Do we know why it failed? Because there is a certain reliability that we're looking for there, and if we're undermining that reliability due to other causes, we need to understand that. Oh.
The light was, we was unaware that it was a temporary fix at that period of time when Navmore installed it. It's come to light because of the failure with it, but that has now been rectified, and we are now in discussion with Navmore of why we wasn't aware in the first place.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, thanks for that. And there's no other lights with similar defects, are there?
No, there's no other lights, and they will all be serviced today. So from, hopefully by end of play on Friday, we should be able to monitor that, and that should be all up to speed.
Are you content with the answer? I think it's it's a very valid point that you've raised about recording all the incidents. And if the consultative committee raises some that you haven't already got, I'm hoping that we use that opportunity to record those as well.
The follow-up, it's just it's where that's recorded and captured and made visible, whether whether there's a reporting section or just as that system becomes online, there'll be more data captured. It's just how we make that visible. I think that was a designated person's finding, and I think it's valuable for for this body as well to see that.
Thank you. Very valid point. Lee, would you like to come in?
Thank you very much. An observation rather than a question. I'm in danger of being accused of being a pedant here, but both Harbour Masters reports recognise that there's a new designated person appointed, which is fantastic news. But the reports could be taken to read that the designated person is working to the harbours. That isn't the case, as I understand it. The designated person will be working alongside the team, obviously, but is independent of the harbours and is working directly to the duty holder, which we've just changed and gone through that process. So it's working to Councillor Ray Bryan. As we're going through this change, I think it's worth just being exactly clear on what the lines of authority are in this case.
Yes, I do. I think we will need to make sure that we have the correct reporting line. Obviously, the designated person works with the Harbours team, but the report goes, or any incidents of concern go directly to the duty holder, and then will be reported back to the committee. Thank you. I had one more point. You mentioned that the bridge was complete. I noticed that only one side has been done. Will the other side be stripped and re-welded at a later stage?
Yes, unfortunately, next year. We're being told, I believe it's April time, they will be looking at doing the other side. They was hoping to leave the railings in, but that wasn't very popular. So they've removed them now.
And is that about the time we're hoping to put all the new pontoons in? It won't affect that with the bridge closure and stacking of boats?
With how it's worked from the left side, it shouldn't affect anything. It will be roughly the same time. Hopefully the bridge work and the pontoon work will just overlap slightly. So we're not anticipating any problems.
Yes, thank you, because obviously it's the other side that's been completed, so it's not the pontoon side. That's the one that we worked on. Yes, thank you. Any other points for the Weymouth team? Yes, Claire.
I just wanted to pick up on Richard's question with regards to the incident reporting, because just sort of for a reassurance point of view, our team do log all incidents, and if a customer telephones, and we encourage customers to do it online, if customers contact us and we ask them to report online and they choose not to, we would add that incident report online. So they are all recorded in one place and they are all sort of responded to. So that's incidents and defects in the same place.
Yes, I think also it was because of I think Richard picked up on the incidents that were mentioned at the consultative committee, and to make sure that those are also they're added or you already know about them. There was a slight technical pause for our online participants. Over to Councillor Ray Bryan.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Again, when we're doing the second part of the bridge, can I please get some form of assurance that we're going to try and cause as least disruption as possible? Because again, I'm expecting the holiday season to start early. I think the area is going to be quite busy. Is there any way that can be brought further forward, earlier into the new year? I know we're dependent on weather, but I'm just wondering whether that can be brought any further forward, Chairman.
Thank you. I think possibly it's Highways who are doing this, so it may well, I can put this in your hands as it comes under your portfolio, Ray.
Thank you, Chairman. I will endeavour to look at this sometime today.
Thank you. Sorry to drop that, but it is Highways rather than Harbours, so.
That's fine. I'll deal with it.
Okay, if that completes any questions for the two Harbour teams, thank you very much for comprehensive reports. We move on to item 8, which is over to Matt Penny for the Flood and Coastal Erosion Risk Management Engineering Update. Matt.
Thank you, Chair. Starting in alphabetically in Lyme Regis, we've mentioned the dredging there. We're on schedule for a March delivery. Tenders have gone out to the market already. We've had to do that ahead of the aforementioned marine license because we're not anticipating getting that to at least late this month, probably in the new year in reality now, I think. So we're going to be progressing the actual tender for the work alongside in parallel to the license, and we're working, we're harrying and chasing the MMO in order to try and get that license in time, as I've mentioned. The inspections at Lyme Regis have all been completed. Just to give a verbal update on what I've written in my report, my confirmation of that they've all been completed, and the defects that have been identified will be handled as business as usual. Repairs are ongoing and they're derived from the aforementioned inspections that have taken place. The Lyme Regis Environmental Improvement Scheme Phase 5, committee is aware that we gained approval from the outline business case from the Environment Agency Assurance Board, which is a really great investment within the harbour, and we're taking forward the next stage of the project. So that's up to construction, up to the point of construction, involving consultation with stakeholders, commercial users. The commercial users have already been consulted with, and we're expecting a next round of engagement with commercial users and others, members of the public, etc., in March this coming year, when we've got something to materially update them with and get comment upon. We have organised discussions with statutory consultees, Historic England, Natural England, and the MMO local office. That's taking place tomorrow. And we hope to, that's to sort of pre-application discussions, so they understand what our intent is, and we understand what their concerns may be. Construction's still proposed to commence in 2024, and we're going to continue to monitor and carry out repairs to the structure in the meantime, to the harbour area. Moving on to West Bay. Very similar update in dredging terms. As I mentioned before, Lyme will come first and then we'll move on to West Bay. That's a risk-based approach we've taken there, because we believe that if there are weather overruns, it will impact the West Bay area less than the Lyme area in tourist terms. I'm not saying there won't be any impact, but there will be less impact. So we've had that, we've taken that risk-based approach to it. And the contractor is being tendered for, and we're going to receive those quotes and hopefully appoint in the new year. The MMO license for West Bay is underway. Inspections, update to my report, what I've written there is that it's been completed now. All the harbour structures have been inspected, and the defects that have been identified will be repaired as business as usual. We do have a scheme that we're developing, a small scheme to repair two sectional walls in the inner harbour, and that project is underway. We've developed a statement of requirement, and we hope to get structural engineers, consulting structural engineers to support us to deliver that work in the near future. Move on to Weymouth. Dredging is carried out in consultation with the harbour team there. It's not necessarily scheduled at the same time every year, but we have commissioned a survey of the harbour depths within the harbour. I'm sure if that has been carried out, that has been completed, and that will help us inform what areas require dredging going forward. But we're liaising with the harbour team on that, and we'll complete the work as and when required. Inspections, again, have been completed around the harbour. They were completed yesterday, actually, so that's good news. So all 3 harbours have now had their assets inspected, and repairs will be taken forward as a business as usual. The Weymouth Flooding Coastal Risk Management Scheme Phase 1, which is the large scheme, £120 million plus scheme over 100 years, following on from the harbour strategy. Committee is aware that the outline business case is underway and is programmed for completion in late 2023, so we'll be submitting it to the Environment Agency and Council Cabinet at that time. Flood modelling and engineering surveys are underway, which will help inform the business case, and we've started extensive consultation with the local residents and community, business holders, etc., business users, to get their consultation and input and feedback on the planned scheme. Walls F and G around the peninsula, they're the walls that have the barriers around and are being risk managed. Access is restricted. We continue to monitor those. We're going to carry out site investigations, and we've recently received in the last few days a design option study, which has given us a short list of options to take forward. But the most likely option for that is likely to be a replacement of the sheet piles as they are, so a new alignment of sheet piles in front, but we haven't come to conclusion on that as yet. The Pleasure Pier, as the Deputy Harbour Master mentioned, structural assessment of the Pleasure Pier has been undertaken, and it is considered structurally sound for current light pedestrian usage. There were repairable defects noted, and we're working with the harbour team to take those forward. The Deputy Harbour Master mentioned the railings. They're in poor condition, and we've recently received 2 quotes for their replacement. We are, again, in discussion, working closely with the harbour team with a view to try and keep those new railings in keeping with the surroundings, and hopefully tie in with the peninsula scheme that is taken forward, because we want to make sure, hopefully, that all the railings match. That would be the best way forward. So, as the Deputy Harbour Master mentioned, health and safety terms, that's being managed by the harbour team, but we're inputting as required. The strategic flood risk assessment level 2 has been undertaken. The update to my verbal update there is that unfortunately the report hasn't been received by 30th November. It's been delayed by a couple of weeks. So we hope to take delivery of that hopefully by the end of this week, and then we'll see what implications that has to flooding, projected forecast flooding around the harbour area. And that concludes my report, Chair.
Thank you, Matt. Councillor Bryan and I walked out on the Pleasure Pier 10 days or so ago. Quite concerned that is the surface adequate to carry new railings, because it did look in poor condition in some places.
Yeah, we're aware of that, but we believe that the railings we intend to install will be fine. We probably won't relocate them in the same area that they're currently due to be. They currently reside, sorry. So we'll move them to a more secure area where they can be. You're right, it can be secured to the concrete or main structure.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments for Matt Penny on the engineering report? No? Thank you very much, Matt. We move now on to item 9, the budget monitoring report. And I think we're going to start with Claire Connolly for Weymouth. And some of this is similar to, I think, the West Bay and Lyme Regis. So James will point out afterwards the individual differences rather than go through all the general preamble, which I'll leave to Claire, please.
Thank you, Chair. So the budget monitoring for Weymouth Harbour is an improving picture. The surplus from the operational budget is expected to increase from a budgeted 104,000 surplus to 214,000 surplus. Income in nearly all areas remain on budget and many have exceeded budget expectations. In the previous Harbour Master update, we've highlighted in a bit more detail those successes, but particularly statistics on occupancy rates in the marina. There has also been some new income this year relating to filming. There's been 3 sets of filming that have taken place in and around the harbour. Cost pressures for this year, we've assumed an overspend on insurance, which is based on last year's actuals and in line with Dorset Council's formula for predicting energy costs. We are basing our forecasts on our actuals and then from October onwards a potential 65% increase, but we haven't had those figures actually confirmed yet, but that's the numbers that we're using. Our finance team have provided a forecast for car parks that are within the harbour portfolio. This is expected to return a surplus of 594,000. Any income generated will be used to support the harbour as a whole, but particularly at the moment with a view to support the regeneration of the peninsula. Any surpluses at year end will be transferred into the reserve, and this brings our predicted year end reserve balance to 2.2 million. The Pleasure Pier reserve, Pleasure Pier has been talked about a lot today, but we continue to allocate £20,000 per annum, and with the work that's just been completed, we'll be able to have a better idea of how suitable that contribution is and whether we need to amend it in future years. The capital receipt reserve is made up of proceeds from assets that have been sold. This fund can be used to contribute future capital schemes. And so for this year, a decision was taken to take some of those funds to purchase a vessel suitable to assist staff in carrying out general maintenance, specifically in the marinas. That's the budget monitoring for Weymouth. James will take over for Bridport line.
Thank you, Claire. Are there any questions about the Weymouth budget monitoring report? I think it's very clear. If not, over to James for West Bay and Lyme, please.
Thank you, Chair. So the budget monitoring for Bridport can be seen on Appendix 2. The expenditure overall is expected to be 64,000 adverse, and the main variances to this is pay-related cost, with the Harbour Master post previously being shared, and both harbours have also benefited from summer ops funding. There's been an increase in fuel cost for the machines and transport cost, and an increase on supplies and services for materials and cost of PPE and clothing, and also the cost of a replacement new harbour rib. There's also an increase in dredging cost. So for the income, it's looking to be 116,000 favourable, and this is down to increase in car park income and increase in diving airfields. And the predicted transfer to reserves for Bridport is looking around 87,000. So for Lyme Regis, the budget monitoring figures can be seen on Appendix 3, and the expenditure overall is 32,000 adverse. And it's similar reasons to Bridport with the Harbour Master Post and savings on summer ops funding. The JCB at Lyme has had several breakdowns, and this is quite a high maintenance cost, but replacements are being looked at. And the increase in dredging cost, and also a new rib for Lyme Regis. So on the income, it's looking at 69,000 favourable, and that's down to the increase in car park income, shop income, and the kayak storage, visiting night vessels and overnight stays, and the increase in launching and harbour use. There's no budgeted transfer to reserves, but the 37,000 predicted surplus will offset the back to DC for the 74,000 that the harbour has supported. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Just as members of the committee, the Dorset Council has supported Lyme Regis because although our strategy is that all three harbours should be operationally self-sufficient, Lyme Regis at the moment isn't generating enough. So the surplus there goes back to Dorset Council to cover the support that Dorset Council gives through various services, whereas the other two harbours are self-sufficient enough to cover that. I think Councillor Ray Bryan, is that a legacy hand or have you got a question, Ray?
Yes, please, Chairman, if I may. A couple of items on the report so far, because this is a meeting in public, that we need to explain clearly that the car park excesses are ring-fenced within the harbour revision order for harbour use. So that money stays within the harbours and will be utilised by the harbours. I'd also like to ask a question, a couple of points that have just come up. The fuel increase, I'm assuming that is also the fact that we've had to change from red diesel to conventional diesel. But also the mention was made of the increase in shop sales. Does that include the vendors that the Harbours has also taken control of from property and assets? Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. James, can you contribute towards that? Or thank you.
The shop sales is just the actual shops that are based at the harbours. The income from the vendors, so the kiosks around the harbours, is sort of included with the car park income. So that's covered from there.
Thank you. Did you get that, Ray? So the car park figure includes the rent from the vendors around the harbour on harbour land.
Yeah, I think for future use we need to split those two out, because I'd like to see the income coming from both sections. But I didn't get an answer on the red diesel, and I'm assuming that is going to be correct. So I probably don't need an answer.
James, have you got a quick answer on that one?
Yeah, the JCBs actually have already been on white diesel for some time, but it is just the cost of increase on white diesel.
Thank you for clarification. Yes, I'll come to you in a second, Lee. Just a word about the car parking income. That is the net income after the cost of servicing and maintaining the car parks by the car park team. So it's the net income comes to the harbours, because the wardens and the enforcement of parking and the maintenance of the car parks still comes under the car park team. So it's the net income that is retained and ring-fenced by the Harbours. Lee.
Thank you very much. A general question, if I may. I think reference was made to increased energy costs, and I think the figure quoted was 65%, or the assumption was 65% coming out of Stand the Tracks. Does that big change need to cause us to look at the works that are happening and projected to happen to see if there's anything that needs to be put into energy efficiency within the harbours, from low-level measures like changing light bulbs and that sort of thing through to bigger solutions?
Thank you. That's a very good point. And Claire, can you try to outline, the basis for it and what we're doing, particularly at Weymouth?
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. We have to look at everything. We're certainly looking at making sure we recharge everything where we can as well. We're currently in the process of bidding for some funds to get some solar panels fitted on one of our buildings. It is expensive, so that's why we're looking for funding for that. Yeah, but absolutely, it's definitely on the agenda for looking at closing doors, being sensible. But yeah, definitely we need to be looking at where we can save money.
So is there a case for just reviewing where we've got spending coming up and seeing if this changes priorities as to where spending is going to be allocated?
You look at that.
Mm-hmm. Are you happy with that? Yeah, thank you, Claire. Any other points for the budget report? Thank you. The recommendation is that we note the current budget monitoring figures for the three harbours. Are the committee content to note the reports? Thank you. We now come on to item 10, the Harbours budget and setting fees and charges. Now, there is a recommendation for this, and I will just explain. And it says that Cabinet asks full council. This only happens on a budget because the Harbours budget is being considered by Cabinet for approval with part of the entire council budget by full council. So it's not an added layer that the Cabinet will then ask full council just to approve the Harbours budget. It is packaged within the complete budget of Dorset Council. But it is a ring-fence budget, and we expect that Cabinet will defer to our expertise here in recommending it, if we do. So if we come on to that, and I think, Claire, you're going to start, aren't you?
We'll start with fees and charges. So we, as a group, both our team and the teams at Bridport and Lyme got together to do some benchmarking exercises. We compared our charges against other harbours and marinas that are close to us and who offer similar services. We also had a look at the different facilities that were available at all of these other sites, and we had a look at our sort of historic price increases to make comparisons and help us form some decisions for you. The Dorset Council, or not decisions, recommendations. The Dorset Council's corporate minimum expectation for price increases is 5%. We have recommended that we have that as our starting point, but there are some exceptions. In the report, tables 2.5 list the exceptions and provide the differences in percentage increase and the rationale as to why we've made those recommendations to you. I don't know if you want us to go through them or if you've had a look at them and just want to give us any questions on the changes.
Thank you, Claire. I think probably right to see if there's any questions for Weymouth at this time. I think it's laid out very clearly in line with Dorset Council's 5%, and I think you've presented this it's a very good way of presenting the only items that don't fit with the 5%. And I know when we had the informal meeting to look at the committee were able to have a look at some of these. And for instance, a cheaper slipway fee for after 2:30 p.m. seemed quite logical rather than a full day's fee, and that's why it's at a less. But are there any members of the committee wish to comment on these proposals? If you're happy, then I think we move on to James and if you can outline as well for West Bay and Lyme Regis.
Thank you, Chair. So I think Claire's really covered all of the outlines for all three harbours, and the table for Bridport and Lyme Regis with anything more than 5% is listed separately. Otherwise, the fees are on Appendix 5 for Bridport and Lyme. Anyone has any questions?
Yes, are there any questions? I think, again, the exceptions and changes. Yes, Richard.
Not a question on the fees, just a question on the budget. I didn't see a capital budget for Lyme and Bridport, and there was one for Weymouth. Is that published separately?
James, can you? Is there a separate capital budget for Lyme and West Bay? Because there's no details of any. I think perhaps Ken is going to come in on this one.
In the forward plan for March 2023, there is an asset management plan coming forward for Bridport and Lyme.
No, that's fine. I was just looking through and trying to get it all to add up. So it's coming through a different route. That's fine.
Thank you. That's a very good point, and I'm glad that we're looking at this in some detail. Thank you. Are there any other points from any members about this, or are we happy to go on to approve the fees and charges as per the recommendation that we ask Cabinet to approve, or we send our approval to Cabinet for their approval to include it within the whole Dorset budget? I'm sorry, it's a bit, the other approvals, as you will see as we go through, do not need this rather drawn out procedure. But are all members of the committee happy to approve all the 1 to 6 on this one? Thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. We now move on to item 11, the approval of the Harbours Marine Safety Plan and update on Port Marine Safety Code audit actions, which, if you remember, we covered in some detail at the last meeting. And I'd like to ask Ken Buchan to present this. And there will be recommendations to the portfolio holder and a decision as well at the end of this agenda item. So, Ken, please.
Thank you, Chair. So this report is a follow-up to the paper presented at the September committee, which covered the designated person's most recent audit report and an action plan to address the issues arising from this. At that meeting, a suggested timetable was presented and agreed. And today's report provides an update on progress against the actions and also a draft marine safety plan for consideration and approval. Generally, progress against the list of actions has been good, with many of the actions completed or close to completion. There are some dependencies, for example, approval of the HROs for Bridport and Lyme, which means that there will be a delay in some actions, particularly around about the general directions. Some other actions are programmed for early in the new year, such as a pilotage review for Bridport, which will come to a future committee meeting, and the review and risk assessment of bunkering activity at Bridport and Lyme. Some final internal checks of the operational plans and safety management system are still required. We now have a new designated person, which was reported earlier, James Hannon of ABP Mayor, who will be asking to assess the safety management system in the new year to confirm its compliance. You remember also following the committee, we suggested that a small working group should be established, which was done to draft the Marine Safety Plan, which is another requirement of the Port Marine Safety Code. Richard Tinsley kindly pulled an initial draft together, and the group added to this and discussed the content. And Richard may wish to say a few words in a minute or two about that. The plan covers some key objectives, who's responsible for delivering these and by when. This plan will be assessed and reported upon at regular intervals to the committee and to the duty holder, and is presented today to the wider committee to consider. The recommendation is that, subject to any suggested changes from the Harbours Advisory Committee, the portfolio holder for Highways, Travel and Environment approve the Marine Safety Plan. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, and I would like to endorse your thanks to Richard Tinsley for the superb and rapid piece of work that he did to produce this, and the other members of the working group, Lee Hardy and I were on that, and I think it was an example of how a small group with a great deal of expertise, I exclude myself there, but from our two independent members, we were able to rapidly come up with a very, I think, very good safety plan that meets the needs. I think, as you mentioned it, with regular reporting, that it should be added to the statutory items on the forward plan that we review the safety plan at each meeting, because I think that's inherent in the safety plan that the committee should be reviewing it. Anyone got any comments on this? Yes, Mary.
It's a very comprehensive report, Chairman.
Thank you. Yes. And Richard.
Just some context. I think it's probably useful for the record. The Port Marine Safety Code requires the duty holder has a marine safety plan. And as you say, we put a small group together. This was taken using examples from Dumfries and Galloway, who are Council Harbours Authority, and ABB Ports. So we used to draft the ones for Dorset from examples from there. And just as a reminder, this sits above the safety management systems that the harbours hold. So the harbours do the detailed operational safety management, and that sits in their operational procedures and risk assessments. And it's used to drive continuous improvement, safety improvement through the ports. So it's a top-level plan, sits with the duty holder. We have an obligation, the duty holder and support for the duty holder has an obligation just to keep that under review. What we've done in the plan, though, is to set out a timetable of review. So I think there are specific actions like incident and accident reporting that should be taken quarterly, but the plan itself is a strategic plan. It's not, it might warrant only a detailed review once every 12 months or so, but the plan itself sets out its own timetable.
Thank you, Richard, for those observations. I'm sure we can add that to the forward plan, the regular reporting and the annual review of the safety plan. And I'm a lot happier following the discussions with our previous designated person that we now are, I think the word is compliant in terms of the documentation for the committee and the duty holder. So thank you very much for everyone who's contributed. I would like to ask the portfolio holder, having listened to the comments and the explanation, and subject to any suggested changes, which I think is really adding to the forward plan, that's the only suggested changes today. Are you happy to approve the Marine Safety Plan, Councillor Bryan?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I'm very happy to approve it. And just so everybody has full knowledge, I've just received my certificate as having carried out a refresher of the training on the responsibilities that I've now taken on. It's interesting that James Hannon of ABP Mer was part of that training group. So I met with him on Monday. But yes, I'm very happy to approve this going forward. And hopefully, I actually look forward to working very closely with this group.
Thank you. I'm sure the Kate Critchell will now make sure the relevant documents are signed. Thank you. And we have a decision as the committee. Our decision is to note the progress on the actions related to this. Are we happy to note all of them? Thank you. And now we move on to the forward plan, and again over to Ken Buchan for the presentation of the forward plan. Ken.
Thank you, Chair. For our next advisory committee meeting, in addition to the regular standing items that we have, it's proposed that an asset management plan is presented for Bridport and Lyme, has just been mentioned there by Richard. But also with reference to the Harbours strategy, another action is to develop a communications plan for the Harbours. In the strategy, it was recognised that having a communications plan would build relationships with suppliers, stakeholders, and users to improve efficiency, promote trust, and responsibility. So we'll be looking to bring a communications plan to the committee in March 23. Two items that were previously scheduled for March 2023 have been pushed back. These are the new general directions for Weymouth and the development of the business plans for the harbours. Both of these require harbour master input, and as it will be February when the new harbour master for Weymouth joins us, I think it would be unreasonable to expect these to be ready for the March meeting. So these have been pushed back to June 2023. I've also noted the discussion earlier on with regard to the terms of reference for the consultative groups, and we'll add that to the forward plan for the March 2023 meeting as well. And that's the update in terms of the forward plan. Thank you.
Thank you. And if, of course, we add the review of the safety plan, the regular on the statute. I did notice, and perhaps we can congratulate James on being made permanent harbour master rather than interim, and we can change the title in the forward plan. And I hope by then we can also add the name of the Weymouth harbour master. So it'd be nice to see it. Has anybody got any questions or any items they feel should be on the forward plan? So I think we've got a fairly full programme for our next meeting, and I suspect that we will probably be asking members to make a working group to look at the communications plan as well. I think that's our aim in the new year. So looking for volunteers for that, please. I don't believe we have any urgent items, Kate, and there is no exempt business today. So I think that now is the end of the first meeting of the Harbours Advisory Committee. So thank you all very much for attending and your contributions, and we look forward to our next meetings. I wish you all a very happy Christmas and prosperous New Year. So thank you all, and that concludes this meeting of the Harbours Committee.